Right, quick video here how to install Android TV box. So you got Android TV box if you haven't got one, but you've got an old computer lying around, or even a good computer. First part of this video, I'll show you how to actually make a bootable drive, so you can just boot from your PC from your USB. I'll show you how to set that up, and the next part of it we'll do is actually showing you if you're on i3 or Pro-Core Duo. I'll show you how to set it up if you're actually wanting a more permanent fix in your actual operating system. If you've got an MBR disk, you can do a multi-boot system, so you can partition your drive. If you know about partitioning, just go down to create and partition drive down here. Write in partition or create. There we go there. Okay, so if you're actually wanting it on your hard drive, but you would have to put in the grub bootloader when you're doing it this way, if you're on a GPT disk. Okay, if you're on an MBR disk, once you've actually installed it onto here, like I have there, you can actually come back and use this program over here called EasyBCD, and that will load in, and you can actually add this one to boot from your Windows bootloader as it boots up. So you get a nice wee bootloader, but that will only work if you're on an MBR disk. Just so happens this one's a GPT, so the only way around that is to have the grub bootloader. But I mean, my advice is if you can do a few partitions, have one for your Windows, one for that, and then put on, so I've got a small amount there, I might install Ubuntu, and Ubuntu actually has the grub bootloader, but it will tell you if there's any other operating systems, and that way you'll know whether to do it or not. Okay, because if you don't want to lose your Windows, if you put on like Ubuntu next and it shows the grub bootloader, this one here but not this one, you won't want to do it, because the only thing that's going to boot is going to be this one and this one. Okay, but if it gives you the option where it shows both of them as well as it's synced for the boot, well, you'll be fine. I'll show you all that though, but the first part of this video, what we're going to do is quickly create a bootable disk, and then what I'm going to do is actually show you from a bootable USB once we've created it, because we're going to use that to actually install it into the hard drive, doing it this way. But you can just use that and run it directly from that, just as a temporary one. There's an option just to run it, so you don't have to install it. But the other option I'm going to show you is we're going to make our own USB stick that's not an installer, because of course this is going to be an installer stick, but we're actually going to install to another USB. Okay, so that's the first part of this vid. So what we're going to do here is close off all this. Of course, the first thing you're going to need is to get yourself the ISO file for whatever TV box that you're wanting. Okay, so let's go into here. Where are we? We get downloads. Alright, so, and you'll see there, I mean, that's the 9Pi TV, that's a good one. And we've also got Phoenix 2 TV and Android TV. Phoenix 2 TV is a good one. It's not going to strain you, it's a lightweight one as well. But so today what we'll do, what I might do is actually install Android TV 8. We'll install that to the USB, make it a bootable thing, and then after that we're actually going to install it to a different USB. So this will actually, when you plug this into your device, it will be the USB that boots the Android. But then I'm also going to show you with the installer how to actually put it into your actual computer, if you're wanting your computer system to be, half computer, half that, or just that fully. Alright, so let's get into it. So make sure you get your ISO file, or which one you want. Next thing you want to get yourself, where are we? Alright, so you want to get yourself either Rufus or Ventoy, or you can use a thing called Balena Etcher. Okay, Balena Etcher and Rufus, they're going to create whatever you're going to create as a installation disk, bootable disk. They're going to use the whole drive. Okay, but if you Ventoy, that's one where you can make it a multi-boot. Okay, so you can actually put lots of different operating systems on Ventoy, which is brilliant. Alright, so pick whichever one you want and then start it up. I mean, if you're using Rufus, you'd click on Rufus, bring that up, let it say yes to that, up it comes. Do you want to just check for application updates online? No, not at the moment. Right, so there's Rufus come up, and of course if we had our drive plugged in, this one here, I mean I've already created it. Okay, actually I better we'll quickly do it, to show you. Alright, so I've just plugged in an empty USB. Alright, we've got Rufus there. Of course you'd come down here, you got the ISO image, so you'd select which ISO image we're going to put on it. That's just what I've named it there. And that'll bring up your folders where your ISO images are. So if we were to select that, we could go into where I put them, downloads. Okay, and then just select which one you want and then open it. I'm not going to do it because I've already, as I say, I've already created the one, the disk that I want to do. Okay, and then of course you'd have a MBR or GPT, depending. As I say, if your home computer is MBR, you'll want to do the MBR. If it's GPT, do GPT. If you're planning to run it off the computer, if you want it sort of multi-purpose, do it as the MBR. Right. And then you just go around, yeah, keep going down, file system, FAT32, it's more, well, accessible to more things. FAT32 is more universal, so just do the FAT32 and then go down to start, and you would have created your disk. Okay, just going to close all this off. Right, so now the next thing we want to do is actually go in to your settings, and actually I'll show you the bootloader. Alright, so return your system on, press the escape key or the F1, F2 key for your system menu to go into your BIOS. So mine is the escape key on this one. Okay, just wait for that to start up. And what we want to do is go down to the BIOS setup. Okay, go to advanced, go down to boot options. Okay, USB storage boot, you want that on. And of course down the bottom here, as I say, it's going to depend solely on, if you're on a MBR disk, just keep it on legacy. You don't have to have the UEFI on. But of course I boot from multiple things. So what you want to do is go over to here, whichever one you're on, or if you're going to do both, just click on it and then do what the on screen says and bring your USB up to the top there. And the same here, of course, depending on which one you're doing. What that's going to do is when you turn your computer on, now it's going to boot automatically from the USB. Now you don't have to do this because of course after we actually install everything, you're going to have to come back in here and turn that off. Or you don't have to, it just means when you turn your computer on, do not have a USB plugged in, otherwise it'll try and boot from it. So you have to come back in and then swap that back around afterwards. But I mean I don't, because when I boot, and once it's booted, then I'll use my USBs, so you're fine doing that. But if you've got a USB plugged in at the start, but if it's not an operating system, it'll actually auto go to that anyway. Okay, so go back out of here. Alright, so secure boot. See that's secure boot, legacy support enable, secure boot disable. Alright, you can put both on disable. I mean I prefer to do things like that. System options. Oh, okay, that's for virtual CPU virtualization. So that's virtual, when you're using VirtualBox and things. You'll see on my video on about putting it on an i5 system. So you'll need that for then. We don't need any other settings. What have we got here? Have it on 512. Yep. Boost converter. Oh yes, you got it. Right. Out of there. And what other one? Option ROM. No. Oh, hang on. Were we just in that one? Oh yeah, USB ports. And of course, yeah, if you have something like a controller you like to get charged, you can make one of your, you'll see on the side of your USB port, there'll be a little lightning bolt next to it, and that'll be the one that's your charging port. So you can plug your controllers into that need charging. Alright, and that's it, we don't need that one. Oh yeah, so legacy. I mean, that's what mine is. It depends on your computer. Okay, if yours is already, don't change that if your computer's already on a certain thing. Alright, I'm just checking a few things out here. Power management, we don't want that on. No. Battery health, man, maximize my battery duration. No. Oh yeah. I should manage my battery charger. Either way, I wouldn't have wanted that setting on. Alright, that's fine. Right, so just press the escape key, we can go to main, and then go down to save changes and exit. And now we're going to boot up from the USB stick. Okay, so now it should auto boot. USB is plugged in, computer's turned on, so it should just auto boot straight in. Alright, now just before we do boot up, of course this is going to be the bootable image inside here. So what I'm actually going to do, we're going to use that and we're going to install the Android TV 9, but we're actually going to, instead of just using that and booting from it, which we could do, it's on there, okay, we could just boot from it. What we're going to do is actually install it to a separate USB, so this one can be used on any system you plug into, and it's all set to go, okay. So what we're going to do here, turn this on, then go through and install it to that. At the same time though, instead of selecting the USB to install to, that's where you couldn't select your partition and your hard drive, okay, where you're actually going to be putting it. The other thing is, if you're actually going to be putting this on a laptop separate to your main one, it's an old laptop lying around, just take the hard drive out of it, and of course you can format it to whichever format that you're wanting, and just use one of these connectors here, okay, SATA to USB 3.0, and of course that way you can link it in, get this all formatted, and the same thing, the exact same process we're about to do. You could have your hard drive just plugged into the side and install it to the hard drive like that. But of course you don't have to do it that way. If you've just got one laptop, your hard drive is going to be in your laptop, so when we're doing it, you'll be selecting to install to whatever partition you got in here if you're wanting to do a multi-boot system in the future, or if you're actually getting rid of it, like I say, if you're just wanting to have just the Android TV. Alright, let's get to it. Alright, so got my empty one, got the one we're going to boot from. Start up your machine, and like I said before, we put it on USB loading first, so it'll load that boot drive. Just remember, if you've got a GPT disk in your computer, your boot one you make has to be made at GPT, and vice versa. And if it's an MBR, you've got to have it at MBR. If you're doing a multi-boot system, I advise having it on an MBR, so then you can use the BCD editor. Right. Oh, what a laugh, I put Android TV 7 on here, not TV 9, but that's right, we'll do this just so you get the gist of it anyway, because that one there I'm actually going to put on the main hard drive for the other computer, so it can just be full on, be able to use. Anyway, let's get into it. Alright, so we'll click on that, and we want to install it. So we go down to install. Like I say, you could just go live, that first option, and you can just play it directly off that disk, just up here, okay? But we want to actually make one that's more, what do you say, permanent. You could go to advanced options installation, but the problem is sometimes it won't pick up all the drives that are available or all the partitions available. Okay, so if you want to do the partitions available and it finds them, for some weird reason it will do it through here, which yeah, is a wee bit strange, but oh, that's how it is. So we go into there. And of course this is where you can select what partitions you've got. Okay, so of course I've actually got a partition here that I've named on the actual hard drive for doing a multi-boot system, so we could just put it in that one, just for now. Or you can select your USB drive, okay, and then just put it onto the USB. Make sure you don't re-wipe over your actual drive. And I can tell because my boot just is a 32 GB, and the other one in there would be, where are we? Yeah, hasn't picked it up, I didn't plug it in quick enough. It's all right. But anyway, we're going to be installing to this one in the hard drive itself, because I'm doing a multi-boot. But as I say, it depends on what you're making. If you want to make that, transfer it over to that. Alright. Right, you notice just before I didn't hit the grub bootloader install. Okay, when you're installing it to your USB or a drive that's going to be solely for it, make sure you do install the grub. Okay, the only reason I'm not is because I'm actually installing Ubuntu here. Okay, so this is going to have a grub bootloader as well for an option for me to boot from. But if you're a bit unsure, don't worry, I am going to show you just installing to the USB and doing the grub bootloader as well. Okay, as I say, with the grub bootloader, you have to make sure you do put that on, okay, when you're putting it to USB and making a hard drive solely for it. If you're doing a multi-boot, this is why I'm doing this here, so you don't have to muck around and try it. Okay, you're going to see if it actually, and the reason I put Ubuntu, it normally picks up any other operating systems with its grub bootloader. So we can find out if it actually picks up the Android or not, to see if it's a waste of time doing it as a multi-boot. It may not be something you can do, but that's fine because you can just put on your USB and boot from USB when you boot up your computer. Okay, I've done it this way so that way, you know, if we had making a multi-boot, if we had actually in the hard drive before said yes to the grub bootloader, if it didn't pick up Windows when it loaded up, we would have a big muck around trying to get our Windows bootloader going again. So this is why I've done it this way through Ubuntu at the end as another system I'm putting on, just to see if it picks them up. This way you're still safe because it will pick up Windows definitely, and it should pick up any other one, as I say. But don't sweat, because we're going to go, I'm going to show you now exactly how to put it on a USB drive, and that's just going to be a bootable USB, so you can keep that other setting that I showed you at the beginning in the BIOS, that it boots from USB automatically. So that way anytime you want to watch Android TV, you just, instead of watching your computer, you'd put your drive in there and it will auto boot your Android TV anyway. So we're going to go over that now. We'll let that do its thing. We'll come back to see the results shortly. As I said, we're covering a few options for you to do installs of Android TV. So I'm just showing you a few different ways you can go about it. So the next one, we're going to go straight to USB, install the operating system to a USB, so the USB is a complete system. Okay, even though before you've seen you could actually just run it, how that is, how we've made the USB, you can just run it live. We want to make a permanent one. So what we're doing is putting that over to a USB drive that I showed you before, and we're going to make that the bootable drive. Okay, so we'll get onto that now.